Simon of the Desert posted 3:02.824 on his last lap, and will be pushing hard for an even lower time.
The time clock can be a cruel mistress that is all too willing to show you your faults.
MkII is on his practice out lap.
It's a lovely day for racing here at Imola 1972 as we watch these drivers warm up and get ready for the race. Stefano Amadei has a best lap time of 1:34.761. Stefano Amadei has a best lap time of 1:34.761. Simon just posted a 1:36.522 crossing start finish.
There is always more time to be found, but Simon is not guaranteed to find it.
With just 2 minutes left before we move to qualification, there is not long left for these drivers to finish their preparations.
Simon is not giving up and will be looking for every tenth.
Simon of the Desert posted 1:36.522 on his last lap, and will be pushing hard for an even lower time. Stefano Amadei has a best lap time of 1:34.761.
If there is still time on the clock, there is still time to improve.
Stefano just posted a 2:17.735 crossing start finish. Stefano Amadei has a best lap time of 1:34.761. Simon of the Desert posted 1:36.522 on his last lap, and will be pushing hard for an even lower time. Simon of the Desert has a best lap time of 1:34.391.
There is always more time to be found, but Simon is not guaranteed to find it.
With just 0 minutes left before we move to qualification, there is not long left for these drivers to finish their preparations.
Stefano Amadei has a best lap time of 1:34.079. Stefano Amadei posted 1:34.079 on his last lap, and will be pushing hard for an even lower time.
The time clock can be a cruel mistress that is all too willing to show you your faults.
Ryan Wilson is on his practice out lap.
It's a lovely day for racing here at Imola 1972 as we watch these drivers warm up and get ready for the race.
Ryan Wilson is on his practice out lap.
Stefano Amadei has a best lap time of 1:33.612. It's a lovely day for racing here at Imola 1972 as we watch these drivers warm up and get ready for the race.
Ryan Wilson is on his practice out lap.
It's a lovely day for racing here at Imola 1972 as we watch these drivers warm up and get ready for the race. The engines are revving up and the drivers are ready to hit the gas pedal for this qualifying session at Imola 1972. It's all about strategy in these early moments. Malero is taking his time to prepare for his qualifying run and get everything just right. As Malero completes the outlap, he will be hoping there's enough space on track to fully attack on the flying lap. Malero appears focused and prepared driving through Tosa.
David Zahn is on his out lap.
It's a delicate balance between taking it easy and pushing hard. Let's see how David handles it.
That ASRL T70 MkII Spyder looks good driving through Castellaccio.
Don't forget to check out the views near Castellaccio, they are fantastic.
David Zahn is working his way through Ravazza.
There's a great spot near here to kick back with a cold drink and enjoy the beauty of it all.
The adrenaline is pumping. Simon of the Desert is on his out lap, warming up the tires and getting ready to put in a fast lap time. That's the out lap done for Simon of the Desert. He'll now look to focus on his first flying lap.
Simon of the Desert is expertly commanding that car through Tamburello.
If Simon listens closely, the sounds of cheering fans should just barely be audible over the roar of the engine.
Simon of the Desert is keeping his head down through Piratella.
Fuel, fumes, fans, and fights. Piratella has it all.
This is where the mental game comes into play. David Zahn is taking his time to prepare for his qualifying run.
David Zahn appears focused and prepared driving through Ravazza.
It looks like Kevin Lekmansky is getting ready to make his move. He's taking his time to warm up those tires and get everything just right.
Kevin Lekmansky has completed his outlap. Simon of the Desert will be looking to use this first hot lap to set a solid time in the standings.
Let's see if he can put a good marker down.
David Zahn is on his first flying lap.
David Zahn has improved by 0.1 up through Tamburello.
There are just over 10 minutes left in this qualification session. It's clear that Kevin MkII is pushing his car to the very edge of traction on this qualifying lap. It's all about precision and speed in qualifying, and Simon of the Desert is nailing both.
Simon of the Desert is looking relatively composed going through Ravazza.
This is what it's all about. Kevin MkII is putting everything he's got into this qualifying session.
It's certainly exciting to watch, but let's not forget, the goal is to secure a good starting position for the race.
The pressure is on in this qualifying session, but David Zahn is rising to the occasion.
Zahn certainly is nailing this one. This is shaping up to be a great performance.
David Zahn has just completed that lap in 1:32.246, which is 0.223 off the best time, putting him in P2.
Simon of the Desert is working his way through Tosa.
Simon of the Desert is now up 0.76 in Castellaccio. Simon of the Desert is in the green by 0.92, making his way through Ravazza.
Simon of the Desert will be happy, with a time good enough for third in this qualifying session.
It may be difficult for him to find that missing 0.327, but that won't stop him from trying.
Ryan Wilson has found an extra 0.94. Ryan Wilson will be happy, with a time good enough for fifth in this qualifying session. Ryan Wilson is expertly commanding that car through Tamburello. Kevin MkII is up 0.1. That ASRL T70 MkII Spyder looks good driving through Ravazza.
When I get some free time after the race, I'm going to park my pudding near Ravazza with a nice drink and some friends.
Ryan Wilson is in the green by 0.11. David Zahn is driving through Tosa.
Spectators near here can smell the smoke wafting from nearby grills.
David Zahn is looking relatively composed going through Castellaccio. David Zahn is currently up 0.42 going through Ravazza. Malero is 0.29 up driving through Piratella.
There are just over 5 minutes left in this qualification session.
Sketty is driving through Ravazza and is up 0.93.
This is where drivers have to decide to push for more or just try to maintain it.
Kevin Lekmansky is now up 0.1 in Tosa. David Zahn is currently on provisional pole, with a time of 1:31.891. Ryan Wilson has improved by 0.22. Ryan Wilson is working his way through Piratella.
Sketty is expertly commanding that car through Ravazza. Sketty will be happy, with a time good enough for 5th in this qualifying session.
Every fraction of a second counts. He is surely working on that 0.93 gap to pole.
Malero is keeping his head down through Castellaccio.
I have always loved this section of the track.
Malero has improved by 0.52 up through Ravazza.
If Malero looks at that delta too much, it may end up being a distraction, and all that time he found may be lost.
Malero is currently on provisional pole, with a time of 1:31.803. Ryan Wilson is driving through Ravazza.
There's not much better than sitting near here and watching the cars speed by.
Ryan Wilson will be happy, with a time good enough for 4th in this qualifying session.
Ryan Wilson is looking relatively composed going through Tamburello. A strong showing from David Zahn as he's currently in second. With the session drawing to a close, he'll need to dig deep and find that extra burst of speed to improve.
You hit the nail on the head, Hal. Dave's current position of second is a testament to his skill and determination. Now, he must stay sharp to make the most of this opportunity.
Stefano Amadei is currently in 7th during qualifying. The challenge now is to assess his competitors and strategize how to move up the order for a better race start.
Spot-on analysis, Hal. Stefano is positioned well in 7th. It's crucial for him to maintain his focus and defend his position in the upcoming race.
Stefano Amadei has some work to do, as his best time of 1:32.459 is only good enough for 6th.
That's not a bad time, but I am sure he will keep working on that 0.656 gap to pole.
Stefano Amadei is off the pace 1.93 at Tosa.
The time clock can be a cruel mistress that is all too willing to show you your faults.
Impressive work from Ryan Wilson, who has claimed 4th on the grid. Now, the focus is on maintaining his composure and push for an even better starting position.
Couldn't agree more, Hal. Wilson is positioned impressively in 4th. Now, he'll need to build on this foundation and strive for an even better race result.
Ryan Wilson has lost 0.22 seconds so far through Pirotella.
This isn't looking good. Hopefully he can improve on the next flying lap.
What a performance from Crow, currently in 8th on the grid. It's a good spot for now, but other drivers are trying their hardest to put in a better time and push him down the order. Crow is working his way through Tosa. That ASRL T70 MkII Spyder looks good driving through Castellaccio.
It's an impressive showing by Ryan Wilson, currently in 4th. He's showcased his talent, but will need to find those crucial extra tenths to climb higher.
It's a beautifully calm day here at Imola 1972, as we're getting ready to get things underway.
The tension's building now. This is going to be another great race.
Malero will lead the way from pole position.
He can't get cocky. This is ASRL, and anything can happen.
David Zahn has a great opportunity starting on the front row.
He will have to be smart about his moves. He must not burn out too early.
Kevin MkII lines up in 3rd place as the engines rev and the race begins.
Another good start for the American driver.
Ryan Wilson is lining up 4th.
I think we are all looking forward to seeing what Wilson can do from here.
The 5th place on the grid belongs to Simon of the Desert, a driver with plenty of experience.
Starting from here, Desert may already have expectations of a podium finish.
The 6th position belongs to Stefano Amadei.
The American driver will be focused on a good result from here.
MkII is lining up 7th.
MkII does not always keep it clean, but when they do, they excel at gaining positions.
Sitting in 8th is Crow.
The proof will most definitely be in the pudding for this Belarusian driver.
And they're off, with drivers now facing the unpredictability of the opening lap. With so many cars close together, the risk of an early accident is real.
The first lap can be chaotic, and avoiding any major incidents is key. Drivers need to be alert and ready to react to any sudden changes on the track.
Races are often more about maintaining consistency than having outright pace, but it doesn't hurt to have a little good luck every now and then.
It's always intense racing here at Imola 1972. Hold on to your hats, folks.
The stewards will be hoping that there aren't too many incidents for them to pick over when the dust settles on this one.
With this motley bunch of drivers, there is bound to be drama. I just hope we don't miss it.
MkII is having a very good race so far, making up several positions in a short time.
It's early days yet, but if he can maintain this effort, then it puts him in a strong position for the race.
This is going to be one hell of a race, I can already feel it.
Let's hope everyone is able to stay focused for the challenge ahead.
There's some intense battling throughout the field as everyone is feeling out the drivers around them.
I for one am really excited how the rivalry between Stefano and Ryan has been building before the race, and this is where scores are settled.
The tensions are high, and no one will want to make a crucial mistake on the first lap.
There are a few drivers with a point to prove, and a few with some grudges to bear. Let's hope they can keep it clean.
There's not much to report on from Crow at the moment. He's just keeping his head down and putting in consistent laps.
Consistency is key in racing. Crow just needs to keep doing what he's doing and wait for opportunities to present themselves.
The gap between Ryan Wilson and Stefano MkII is razor thin as they vie for 5th in this nail-biting contest.
When I was racing, we had a saying, if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much space. Wilson is definitely living on the edge today.
This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Crow is chasing Ryan Wilson in P6.
It's a fine line between pushing the car to its limits and losing control. Crow is really walking that fine line.
David Zahn is on a mission, chasing MkII, who's desperately trying to stay ahead.
The gap between them is now just over 0.4 seconds.
This one's going to be tough. Ryan Wilson is getting his elbows out, and there may not be enough time left for Crow to make a move. Breaking news, folks. Great driving from Ryan Wilson, who has just gained a place and moved up to 5th.
That's right, Wilson is showing some great form and it looks like Crow won't be able to catch up, barring any mistakes.
They're going side by side, door handle to door handle. This is as close as it gets, folks. I would not be surprised if these drivers swap positions a few times before the order gets ultimately decided.
Breaking news, folks. Incredible. Stefano MkII is caught in a fierce battle, with Crow breathing down his neck 0.1 seconds away, and Wilson just ahead with a gap of 0.2 seconds. It's a test of his racing skills.
You hit the nail on the head, Hal. The gaps to the cars ahead and behind are crucial pieces of information for Stefano's race strategy. It's a delicate dance, and he must remain vigilant.
Looks like Crow is really hitting those curbs aggressively, which can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer.
Every move counts now as Sketty works to reel in David Zahn and overtake for P3.
The racing is getting tight between Sketty and Zahn as they battle for P3. No doubt, both drivers know that one mistake could cost them the position. It's a test of nerves as much as skill.
Crow is placed 6th at the moment, and hoping to keep his distance ahead of Ryan Wilson, who is 0.3 seconds behind. Look at that, Ryan Wilson is hot on the tail of Crow.
The gap is 0.4 seconds now. Wilson is going to have to work a bit harder to close that gap with Crow.
The battle for P3 is heating up as Sketty tries to catch David Zahn in P3.
We'll have to wait to see if Sketty can use the draft to his advantage, or if the lack of downforce will hinder his progress.
Ryan Wilson is having to make that ASRL T70 MkII Spyder as wide as possible to try and keep Crow behind him. It looks like Crow is starting to catch up to Ryan Wilson. The gap is now down to 0.1 seconds.
Can Wilson keep Crow behind? Let's see.
Things are getting spicy now, as Crow and Ryan Wilson look to battle it out for 6th place.
Absolutely. Crow in 6th is doing a fantastic job of maintaining his lead, but he can't afford to make a single mistake. Ryan is looking for any opportunity to make a move. This could be a battle to the finish line.
Hold the phone, and Ryan Wilson has just won the place from Crow.
Things are heating up as Ryan Wilson closes in on Crow. The gap between them is down to practically nothing.
Crow could be looking for a way up the inside of Ryan Wilson.
There is no room for error in this battle.
The pressure is on as Kevin MkII tries to catch up to Crow.
This is a thrilling battle as Sketty edges closer to David Zahn in their fight for P3.
It's not going to plan for Sketty, who is trailing behind David Zahn and the gap is widening. He may not have an answer for this right now.
Sketty needs to focus and keep pushing, even when things aren't going his way. If he can close the gap down, he may be able to bring the fight to David.
The action is heating up here as Crow is in 7th, defending from Kevin MkII, who is only 0.4 seconds away.
Crow is doing a great job of defending in the lead, and MkII is pushing hard to close the gap. It's an exciting race and it's not over yet.
Kevin MkII is running 8th, and trying to catch Crow. The race is really heating up. Crow is hunting down Ryan Wilson with everything he's got. It's game on now. Crow has closed the gap to Ryan Wilson. It's now down to 0.4 seconds.
He'll be looking for a mistake to pounce on.
Sketty is looking for a way to close that gap to David Zahn.
No doubt, both drivers know that one mistake could cost them the position. It's a test of nerves as much as skill.
Ryan Wilson seems to be putting the pressure on Stefano Amadei.
For sure, Hal. That's exactly what I would be doing here, as Stefano is going to be aware of him riding his bumper.
Crow is looking for an opportunity to get around Ryan Wilson. Stop the press. Now, this is a challenging position for Crow. Stuck between a rock and a hard place, with Kevin closing in 0.2 seconds behind and Wilson just ahead with a gap of 0.1 seconds.
You're absolutely right, Hal. The gaps to the cars ahead and behind act as a measuring stick for Crow's performance. He'll have to keep a close eye on those gaps to stay in control of his race.
Rubbing's racing, but let's just hope they don't rub it too hard.
It's a challenging situation for Crow. He's sandwiched between fierce competitors, Kevin 0.2 seconds away and Wilson 0.1 seconds ahead. He'll need to stay sharp and find an opportunity to make a move. Things are heating up as Stefano Amadei tries to close the gap to Crow.
You can see that car bouncing around as it rides the curbs. It's a risky move that could end in disaster.
It seems like Stefano Amadei is struggling. His last lap time was a bit off the pace of Crow.
Hopefully Stefano can find some of that missing time and get it back.
I'm curious, Ada, can you tell us about any pre-race rituals you had when you were racing?
Of course, Hal. Before every race, I would listen to a specific playlist of songs to help me get in the zone. I also had a lucky pair of socks that I would wear during races. It may sound silly, but those little rituals helped me feel prepared and focused.
We got a close battle as Crow closes in on Kevin Lekmansky.
If Crow gets any closer, he might as well ask Kevin for a piggyback ride.
The gap between Crow and Kevin Lekmansky is widening. It's now up to 0.5 seconds.
Crow needs to get it together to make a dent in that gap.
The gap between Simon of the Desert and Sketty is not insurmountable, but it's going to take a mistake from Simon of the Desert to bring Sketty into play.
Excellent work from Simon of the Desert, who has managed to increase his lead over Sketty.
It's really looking like Simon is going to be tough to pass today. He's driving with real confidence and authority.
As a former driver, Ada, how did you manage the physical demands of racing?
It's all about preparation, Hal. Drivers undergo rigorous fitness training to build their strength, stamina, and flexibility. A proper diet and hydration plan is also essential to ensure peak performance on race day.
Crow is on a mission, chasing Kevin Lekmansky, who's currently got a comfortable lead.
Don't forget the role of aerodynamics. Crow should use slipstreaming to his advantage and close the gap to Lekmansky.
A top lap time there from Crow, setting his fastest lap of the session so far.
These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving.
The mental game is just as important here. Ryan must keep his cool while putting pressure on Sketty.
Good news for Ryan Wilson, the gap to Sketty has decreased. It's now down to 0.3 seconds.
The pursuit is on. Simon of the Desert is working on that gap to David Zahn, determined to claim P2.
Simon needs to focus to make up that gap to David.
Looks like Sketty is coming in hot. He's approaching that turn way too fast. Breaking news, folks. What a move. Sketty has moved up to 5th.
Impressive. Sketty is really showing his skill and determination out there.
While David Zahn is not under immediate threat from Simon of the Desert, he can still benefit from staying focused. Any slip-up could lose him the position.
Hold the phone. That won't be ideal for Kevin Lekmansky. This is where the race gets really interesting. Simon of the Desert is closing in on David Zahn.
We'll have to wait to see if Simon can get into drafting range.
Hold up, breaking info. A great moment for Simon of the Desert, who has just gained a place and moved up the standings.
Absolutely. Simon is really putting on a clinic out there, and he's making it look easy.
You know, Ada, as a former racing driver yourself, can you give us some insights into what goes through a driver's mind during these quieter moments in a race?
Breaking update. I don't think that's the fastest way around Imola 1972.
Sure, Hal. During these moments, drivers often take the opportunity to assess their race strategy, monitor their car's performance, and plan their next move. It's all about staying focused and finding the right time to strike.
It doesn't seem like things are going to plan for Stefano Amode, as there is a big gap ahead.
Stefano certainly isn't going to be close enough to mount any kind of challenge soon unless it's down to a mistake from Kevin.
Stefano Amode is pushing hard and has reduced the gap to Kevin Lekmansky to 1.5 seconds.
That's a great effort from Stefano. He'll need to keep up the pressure and see if he can make a move.
Hey, Ada, you've had your fair share of races with little action. How did you handle the situation back in your racing days?
Well, Hal, patience is key in such scenarios. You need to stay focused and be ready to seize any opportunity that comes your way. It's like a game of chess at 200 miles per hour.
The gap between Kevin Lekmanski and Stefano Amadei is pretty substantial right now. It's probably going to take a mistake from Kevin to even allow Stefano to get a look in.
Simon of the Desert is giving it his all, chasing down David Zahn in P2. Simon of the Desert is trying his best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with David Zahn at the moment.
This is a frustrating situation for Simon, but he can't give up just yet. He'll need to keep pushing and hope for a mistake from Dave.
The gap is just over a second, and I'm sure Simon of the Desert is going to do everything possible to try and close the distance. He's not giving up without a fight.
That's right, Simon in third knows to push it to the limit to catch up. But Dave is no slouch, and he's going to be pushing just as hard.
A strong showing from David Zahn, who is currently second. Some great driving from David Zahn, who has increased his lead over Simon of the Desert and is starting to put some distance between them.
Well, it looks like we have a bit of a traffic jam on the track.
It's like rush hour out there. I mean, I know we're in a race, but can't we all just get along?
You can wish all you want, but I don't think that's how racing works, Ada. These drivers are here to win, and they'll do whatever it takes to get ahead.
I guess you're right, but wouldn't it be great if they all just stopped for high fives and fist bumps?
Simon of the Desert will need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops.
It's going to be tough for Simon, as Dave seems to have found his rhythm.
The delta between Ryan Wilson in sixth and Stefano Amadei remains over a second, but Ryan Wilson is not letting up.
We're witnessing a battle of skill and strategy between two great drivers, with Ryan in sixth determined to catch up.
It looks like Ryan Wilson is making a move. The gap to Stefano Amadei is now down to 6.8 seconds. Stop the press. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line. The crowd is on the edge of their seats as Simon of the Desert in third chases after David Zahn.
Simon of the Desert needs to find some speed, or maybe get more consistent, Ada. He's just put in a slower lap than David Zahn.
Breaking development. Oh dear, Crow has had an incident.
Did the wind contribute to that? It's blowing at 1 kph out there right now. It will be interesting to see if David can keep outpacing Simon.
That's not a small gap, but Crow has what it takes to challenge for the position. It's all about consistency for Malero, who is currently first.
Yes, but Malero has to keep his focus and drive with intensity. There's still a long way to go in this race.
Impressive driving from Malero, who has managed to extend his lead over David Zahn. It looks like David Zahn will have to regroup and try to make up that lost ground.
The delta is just over a second, and you can feel the tension in the air. Simon of the Desert needs to find a way to close the gap.
Simon of the Desert is not able to keep his pace consistent, and is currently 0.55 seconds down. It's looking good for David Zahn, sitting in second.
David Zahn could be on a charge here, Ada. He's just put in a quicker lap than Simon of the Desert.
We will have to see if Simon has got any answers for that.
We are used to seeing some hard-fought but clean racing here at ASRL. I'm expecting to see nothing different here today as this race unfolds.
David Zahn is placed second at the moment.
That's right, Zahn can't afford to make any mistakes or let up. Every point counts in this championship.
Simon of the Desert is pushing hard and looking for any opportunity to close that gap to David Zahn. There's 17 minutes left in this session to make that happen.
It's moments like these that make motorsports so exciting. It should be an interesting battle to watch as long as Simon can close that gap.
It's certainly not going to plan for Simon of the Desert right now. who is struggling to keep up with David Zahn.
This is not ideal for Simon, but there's still time to turn this around. He'll need to focus and not let that gap get any bigger.
Sketty is running 8th, and trying to keep up with Crow.
It's all about finding the perfect opportunity. Sketty needs to stay patient and wait for Crow to make a mistake.
The gap between Sketty and Crow is getting smaller. The race is heating up as Ryan Wilson in 6th closes in on Stefano Amadei. The gap between Ryan Wilson and Stefano Amadei is growing. It's now up to 9.3 seconds.
Sketty is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift.
This is not going to be an easy pass to make.
It seems like Sketty has got the bit between his teeth, improving on Crow's lap time there.
A solid performance from Malero, who is holding down first. A commanding performance from Malero, who has increased his lead over David Zahn, putting him firmly in his rear-view mirrors.
That's a really strong performance from Malero. He's not giving David any chances to catch up.
This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Sketty is chasing Crow in P7. Sketty has just put in a faster lap than Crow, so that's going to give him something to worry about. It looks like Ryan Wilson is pushing hard to catch up to Stefano Amadei.
This is where experience comes into play. Stefano has been in this situation before and knows how to defend for position, but Wilson is hungry for success and won't give up easily.
Ryan Wilson could be on a charge here. He's just put in a quicker lap than Stefano Amadei.
As long as Ryan can maintain that consistency and pace, it will be interesting to see.
Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed.
It's game on now. Sketty has closed the gap to Crow. It's now down to 0.1 seconds.
You know, Ada, it's been a relatively quiet race so far.
That's right, Hal. The drivers seem to be pacing themselves and waiting for the right moment to make their move. It's like watching a slow dance.
Sketty has a battle on his hands now, coming through Tamburello with Crow hot on his tail.
Rising to the occasion and claiming victory would help to cement Crow's legendary status.
Hold your breath, folks. Crow is sandwiched between two relentless competitors, 0.1 seconds behind and Sketty 0.1 seconds ahead. They're fighting tooth and nail for every position. Braking development. Oh, things are getting intense for Crow. He's sandwiched between and Sketty, navigating this high-speed battleground. The gap to the car ahead is 0.1 seconds, while the car behind is only 0.1 seconds away. Look at that, Sketty is hot on the tail of Crow. Hold that thought. An impressive showing from Sketty, who has gained positions and left Crow in the dust.
Absolutely. Sketty is showing great pace and determination, but he can't get too confident. There are still plenty of challenges ahead.
Sketty is looking to close the 0.4 second gap and make a pass.
Crow wants to close that gap with Sketty.
To achieve anything in this game, you must be prepared to dabble at the boundary of disaster.
Oh, the pressure is on for Crow. Trapped between 0.1 seconds away and Sketty just ahead with a gap of 0.1 seconds, he must defend his position while seeking an opportunity to advance. Breaking news, folks. Talk about being caught in the middle. Crow is sandwiched between some fierce competitors, 0.1 seconds behind and Sketty 0.1 seconds ahead. The battle for position is on.
No doubt about it, Hal. The gaps to the cars ahead and behind are like a constant reminder for Crow. He'll need to maintain pace to defend the position and potentially make a move.
And it's a checkered flag for Malero, who crosses the finish line with a commanding victory. What a phenomenal performance, absolutely dominant today. Malero is on fire in the last sector.
He'll be the one celebrating at the finish line.
David Zahn never gave up. He drove with heart and determination, ultimately securing a well-deserved second-place finish. That was an outstanding performance from Simon of the Desert. He fought hard and took the final spot on the podium.
Fantastic result.
Kevin MkII and Stefano Amadei brings home 4th and 5th. Coming in 6th we have Ryan Wilson. With Crow in 7th. Hold on a moment. A setback for Sketty, who has just been passed. Taking 8th is Sketty. It's a very still day here at Imola 1972, as we're getting ready to kick things off. Starting from pole position is a great opportunity for Sketty to take control of the race.
He can't let his guard down. The other drivers will be gunning for him.
Starting on the front row is a great opportunity for Crow to challenge for the lead.
He will have to keep his foot on the gas in order to stay at the sharp end of the grid.
In 3rd place, we have Ryan Wilson.
Wilson is in a good place to mount a good challenge come the first corner.
Holding strong in 4th place is Stefano Amadei.
It's not always easy to get the ASRL T70 MkII Spyder this high up the starting grid.
As the drivers prepare to take off, Kevin MkII sits in 5th place on the starting grid.
A strong grid position, and he'll be expecting a solid result today.
Sitting in 6th at Simon of the Desert.
It's like he's on the outside looking in, close enough to see the front without actually being there.
David Zahn will be looking to gain ground quickly starting from 7th on the grid.
It's the standards tire compounds for David.
Lining up in 8th is Malero.
David Zahn isn't going to make it easy to get through the pack.
The green flag is out and the drivers are off. You know what, Ada? This is what it's all about.
Avoiding contact while trying to gain position is essential. The first lap is often where we see incidents that can change the course of the race.
Sketty will be studying the nearby drivers and looking for anything that could give them an advantage.
I'm looking forward to this one. How? Maybe we'll see a return to form for Sketty in this outing in Italy.
As the drivers get this race underway, let me give a shout out to the admin team at ASRL for making this all possible. Heroes one and all.
It looks like Ryan Wilson was channeling a sloth at the start, losing places as he crawled off the line.
Definitely not the start Wilson was looking for. Nobody wants to risk getting held up in the early stages of the race.
Having started in P8, Malero will be hoping for a good result in this race.
It's brilliant to see such a full grid here today. Is there a better sight than a field of elite racing drivers battling for position? The pressure is on when the field is this tightly packed. Maintaining just enough aggression to hold off their rivals without pushing too hard will help these drivers keep it clean.
I think passing is going to be difficult today here at Imola 1972, so it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers get on. It's not looking good for Kevin Lekmansky, who is still behind Crow, and the gap is increasing.
Look at the way the drivers are hugging those corners, it's like they're on rails.
Speaking of rails, did you know that the first racetrack was built on a railway in 1896? I bet those drivers were chugging along.
All joking aside, I bet they were. Things have come a long way since then, haven't they?
Stop the press. Disappointing for Kevin Lekmansky, falling down the order to 4th.
Definitely. It's amazing to think about the technology that goes into these cars now. I mean, they have more computing power than some countries.
It looks like Ryan Wilson is in control. He's ahead of David Zahn by over a second, and it doesn't look like he's going to be challenged anytime soon. David Zahn is holding 7th, but Simon of the Desert is right on his tail.
He's pulling away. David Zahn is increasing the gap to Simon of the Desert.
Agreed. Hal, superb driving there. If they keep this up, this race should be a real thrill ride.
It's a tight race with Kevin Lekmansky in 5th just managing to stay ahead of Ryan Wilson in 6th by a margin of 0.2 seconds.
This is a tight race and Kevin is doing a great job of holding him off. It will be interesting to see if Wilson can make a move.
Hold on a second. A brilliant maneuver from Ryan Wilson, who has just moved up the field. The battle for P5 is heating up as Ryan Wilson tries to catch Kevin Lekmansky in P5.
It's a game of strategy now as Wilson hunts down Lekmansky.
Yes, it's all about choosing the right moments to push and when to conserve energy, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike.
The fans are on the edge of their seats. It doesn't get any closer than this.
I remember being in a similar situation during my racing days. Simon must stay focused and wait for the perfect opportunity to overtake.
Oh, this is getting intense. Malero is just a few car lengths behind Kevin Lekmansky. It's not going to plan for Malero, who is trailing behind Kevin Lekmansky, and the gap is widening. He may not have an answer for this right now.
It's a game of inches now as Ryan Wilson tails Malero closely, ready to capitalize on any mistake.
Can Ryan close up enough for a pass? I don't see it personally.
I think Stefano Amadei is going to try and outbrake ASRL T70 MkII Spyder as they come into Castellaccio. This could gain him the place, but it may all end badly. David Zahn has got his head down now, working those exits and apexes and setting his best lap time so far with a 1 minute.
Stefano Amadei is on a mission, chasing David Zahn, who's desperately trying to stay ahead.
Breaking alert. Oh dear, Stefano Amadei has dropped down to 8th.
Yes, but he can't give up. There's still plenty of time left in this race, and Stefano needs to stay focused and keep pushing.
Oh, this is getting intense. Ryan Wilson is just behind Malero.
And it's not just about skill and talent. It's about who has the nerves of steel to handle the pressure and make the right decisions at the right time.
Every move counts now as David Zahn works to reel in Ryan Wilson and overtake for P5.
Sometimes you have to take risks to win, but pushing the car too hard can be a costly mistake. David needs to be careful not to overdo it.
3 cars in perfect formation, creating a moving train on the circuit. They're using the slipstream to gain an advantage, but that's not always enough.
You said it, Hal. The different lines they're taking demonstrate their strategic thinking. It's fascinating to see how they adapt their approaches to gain an advantage.
The race is really heating up. David Zahn is hunting down Ryan Wilson with everything he's got.
One important aspect here is choosing the right braking points. Zahn needs to be precise to avoid overshooting and losing valuable time.
No room for error here. Ryan Wilson is breathing down the neck of Malero, waiting for the perfect chance to make his move. Braking update. Looks like that's a mistake from Malero. This could be costly.
These two are putting on a masterclass in precision driving. Every turn, every acceleration, calculated to perfection.
The pressure is on as Crow tries to catch up to Sketty. These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving.
Zahn is really pushing the limits. He's riding the curbs and hustling that ASRL T70 MkII Spyder like a boss.
It's an intense battle for position as Crow tries to outmaneuver Sketty. This is edge-of-your-seat racing.
It's a thrilling battle for position as these two drivers give it their all. This is racing at its finest.
The pursuit is on. David Zahn is closing the gap on Ryan Wilson, determined to claim P4.
With just 0.5 seconds between them, Dave will need to close the gap to have hopes of a pass.
It seems like Sketty is getting in range of Crow.
And Sketty is poised to capitalize on any mistake. It's just a matter of who cracks first.
It looks like Crow is pulling away from Sketty. The gap is continuing to grow as they head through Castellaccio.
This is where the mental toughness of Sketty comes into play. He'll need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when things aren't going his way.
David Zahn has a mountain to climb at the moment to close that gap with Ryan Wilson. I expect his only hope at this point is that Ryan makes an error.
Every race adds to a driver's experience, both good and bad. It just highlights that Dave is going to have to get more serious with practice to not get outclassed on the circuit.
Looking at the lap times, David Zahn is not currently on pace with Ryan Wilson. Maybe he'll get a chance to see where to make up some time.
Hopefully Zahn can find some of that missing time and get it back.
The drivers have been working hard to come up with the perfect race strategy. They've been looking at the weather, the track conditions, and the performance of their cars.
Now it's time to put that strategy into action and see if it pays off.
Well, it doesn't look like Sketty is going to be much of a threat to anyone soon, let alone Crow.
It's not over until the checkered flag drops, and it's important to maintain concentration until you've made it to the finish line.
Sketty is trying his best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Crow at the moment.
He needs to pick up the pace for sure, but that's not always a real possibility.
The pressure is on as David Zahn works on catching up to Ryan Wilson.
Zahn is really hustling that ASRL T70 MkII Spyder. He's riding the curbs and pushing the car to its limits.
It seems like David Zahn is struggling. His last lap time was a bit off the pace of Ryan Wilson.
It will be interesting to see if Wilson can keep outpacing David.
Sketty is staying focused while chasing Crow in P1. It's certainly not going to plan for Sketty right now, who is struggling to keep up with Crow.
This is a tough situation for Sketty. He'll need to find a way to pick up some speed and close that gap.
Fantastic racing on show here today, and it's not just the top drivers who are impressing us. Even the drivers at the back of the pack are putting up a good fight, battling it out for every position.
It's a testament to the level of competition at ASRL. Even the smallest mistake can cost you valuable seconds, or even lead to a crash. But these drivers are up to the challenge, and they're giving it their all. It's clear that ASRL really is the place to be for top-quality racing.
This is a thrilling battle as David Zahn edges closer to Ryan Wilson in their fight for P4. It looks like we might get a battle between David Zahn and Ryan Wilson.
Exactly what Zahn needed. He can't afford to lose any more ground to Ryan.
And we're back, where the drivers are showing us some incredible skills.
Indeed, Hal. It's always exciting to see these skilled drivers operating such fantastic machines on amazing tracks.
Sketty is trying to catch up to Crow. The gap is slowly closing, but time is running out. Situations like these often lead to a dramatic finish. The gap between Sketty and Crow is growing. It's now up to 1.3 seconds.
It's not over yet, but Sketty needs to get a move on if they want to catch up to Crow.
The track conditions are looking good here today. The drivers will be able to push the cars to the limit, and it's going to make for some exciting racing.
David Zahn is giving it his all, chasing down Ryan Wilson in P4.
I would not be surprised to see him get this pass completed soon.
It seems like David Zahn has got the bit between his teeth, improving on Ryan Wilson's lap time there.
The question now is, can Wilson respond to that and pick up the pace? I'm not so sure.
Even though David Zahn is a fair way behind Ryan Wilson, he can't afford to let his guard down. Ryan Wilson is still vulnerable to mistakes.
It seems like Ryan Wilson is pushing hard, currently on track to record his best lap so far this race. This is where the race gets really interesting. David Zahn is closing in on Ryan Wilson.
It's not looking good for David Zahn, who is still behind Ryan Wilson, and the gap is increasing.
Zahn needs to get it together to make a dent in that gap.
Things are heating up as MkII tries to close the gap to Simon of the Desert. MkII has just put in a faster lap than Simon of the Desert, so that's going to give him something to worry about.
David Zahn is looking for a way to close that gap to Ryan Wilson.
It's all about choosing the right moments to push and when to conserve energy, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike.
The gap between David Zahn and Ryan Wilson is widening. It's now up to 0.8 seconds.
This is a frustrating situation for Dave, but he can't give up just yet. He'll need to keep pushing and hope for a mistake from Ryan.
If everything goes as planned, this is going to be a race for the ages.
The drivers are executing their strategies to perfection, making the most of every opportunity. This is what top-level racing is all about.
Stop the press. That won't be ideal for Stefano Amadei.
Imola 1972 is always a test for these drivers, and sometimes that's the way it goes.
The race is really heating up. Ryan Wilson is hunting down Kevin Lekmanski with everything he's got.
Ryan Wilson is pushing hard and has reduced the gap to Kevin Lekmanski to 0.6 seconds.
This is what racing is all about. Hard-fought battles with as much determination as respect, between friends and enemies alike.
Things are heating up as David Zahn tries to close the gap to Ryan Wilson.
He's got his work cut out for him, that's for sure.
David Zahn needs to find some speed, or maybe get more consistent. He's just put in a slower lap than Ryan Wilson.
Hopefully Zahn can find some of that missing time and get it back.
During your racing career, Ada, did you have any specific techniques to regain concentration if you felt it slipping?
Yes, Hal, I had a few techniques. One was to take a couple of deep breaths and briefly reset my focus. Another was to use a specific keyword or phrase as a mental trigger to refocus my mind on the task at hand.
Oh, this is getting intense. Ryan Wilson needs to keep Kevin Lekmanski in his sights.
I would not be surprised to see him challenge for the position.
It's a game of cat and mouse out there, with Kevin Lekmanski trying to find the perfect opportunity to make a move on David Zahn. The gap is over a second, but every fraction counts.
Hold the phone. I don't think that's the fastest way around Imola 1972.
Anything can happen in racing, and we've seen Kevin pull off some impressive moves before. I'm excited to see if he can do it again.
It may seem like Kevin Lekmanski is far behind, but Malero can't afford to let his guard down. One mistake could give Kevin Lekmanski an opening to catch up.
Looking at the lap times, Malero is not currently on pace with Kevin Lekmanski. Maybe he'll get a chance to see where to make up some time. The drivers are showing their mettle today. It's a privilege to witness their skill on this challenging track.
The stakes have never been higher. This is a battle of skill and nerves.
That's right. These drivers are really pushing themselves to the limit, and it's incredible to see the level of focus and determination they're bringing to the track.
Absolutely. It takes a lot of courage to compete at this level, and these drivers have it in spades. Let's hope they can keep it up and give us a race to remember.
It doesn't seem like things are going to plan for Sketty as there is a big gap ahead.
Anything can happen yet, and it usually does. I've certainly seen drivers come back from worse.
Malero is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift.
It's a fine line between pushing the car to its limits and losing control. Malero is really walking that fine line.
The battle for P1 is heating up as Sketty tries to catch Crow in P1.
The gap is 0.5 seconds now. Sketty is going to have to work a bit harder to close that gap with Crow.
Malero is running 6th, and trying to catch Simon of the Desert. It seems like Malero is struggling and not able to maintain his pace.
This may not be a track that Malero is familiar with, which can be a pleasant challenge or an annoyance at being off pace.
It's a brilliant day for racing, and the drivers are putting on a show.
Absolutely. What a great race we are witnessing today. These drivers are giving it their all, and it's a thrill to watch them compete at this level.
They're really pushing themselves and their machines to the limit, and it's paying off with some incredible driving.
It's a pleasure to be here today, Hal. You really can't beat the excitement of a good race, especially one as competitive as this.
This is where the race gets really interesting. Sketty is closing in on Crow.
The gap between them is now just over 0.8 seconds.
It's not going to plan for Sketty, who is trailing behind Crow and the gap is widening. He may not have an answer for this right now.
This is not ideal for Sketty, but there's still time to turn this around. He'll need to focus and not let that gap get any bigger.
Things don't seem to be going Ryan Wilson's way in this race, as that's a big gap he'll have to close to even be in with a shout for gaining a place here.
Wilson certainly isn't going to be close enough to mount any kind of challenge soon unless it's down to a mistake from Sketty.
It looks like Ryan Wilson is making a move. The gap to Sketty is now down to 0.7 seconds.
This is where the race gets really exciting. Both drivers will be pushing to the limit to gain the advantage.
Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed. Every move counts now as Ryan Wilson works to reel in Sketty and overtake for P2.
Ryan Wilson could be on a charge here, Ada. He's just put in a quicker lap than Sketty.
We will have to see if Sketty has got any answers for that.
Sketty wants to get into Crow's slipstream.
I might have said this before, but dog, bone, you know the rest.
It's a close race between Ryan Wilson and Sketty in second.
This is what separates the good from the great, the ability to stay focused and perform under pressure.
It's looking good for Ryan Wilson, who has gained a place after passing Sketty. Hold on a moment. Superb driving from Ryan Wilson, who with that overtake has gained a position in the race.
You can't argue with results like that. Wilson is really making his mark on this race. Yes, but Wilson needs to keep pushing hard. This race is far from over, and anything can happen. Wilson needs to stay focused and drive with skill and determination.
The gap between Simon of the Desert and Melero is pretty substantial right now. It's probably going to take a mistake from Simon to even allow Melero to get a look in.
The race is really heating up. Ryan Wilson is hunting down David Zahn with everything he's got.
Looks like Simon of the Desert is really hitting those curbs aggressively, which can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer.
Ryan Wilson has the pedal to the metal chasing David Zahn.
He'll need to keep it on the road, or at the very least the rumble strips. The fastest way around is not usually in the grass. As the saying goes, too much grass will slow you down.
Wait, it's a tale of two drivers right now, with Ryan Wilson gaining places and David Zahn losing them.
Yes, but Wilson can't rest on his laurels, but needs to keep pushing to consolidate his position.
Looks like we might have a great battle starting here between Simon of the Desert in 5th and Melero. It's been tense with a gap of only 0.3 seconds.
Surely he's got enough in the tank to pull away. Gonna be interesting to watch this battle unfold.
This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Melero is chasing Simon of the Desert in P5.
We'll have to wait to see if Melero can use the draft to his advantage, or if the lack of downforce will hinder his progress.
Oh, this is getting intense. David Zahn is just a few car lengths behind Ryan Wilson.
The gap between them is just over 0.4 seconds, which can feel like miles if you're trailing and not catching up.
The pursuit is on. Melero is closing the gap on Simon of the Desert, determined to claim P5.
This is where every inch counts. Melero is pushing hard to close the gap on Simon.
Absolutely. Precision and control are key here. Knowing when to push and when to hold back can be the difference between winning and losing.
Look at that, David Zahn is hot on the tail of Ryan Wilson. David Zahn appears to be losing ground on Ryan Wilson. He'll need to pick up the pace a bit heading into Piratella to get a good exit and gain some ground.
In your experience, Ada, what was the most challenging aspect of maintaining concentration during a race?
The most challenging aspect, how, was managing the various inputs and distractions during the race, from radio communication with the team to monitoring car performance and race strategy. It's a delicate balancing act that requires immense mental discipline.
Melero is looking for a way round Simon of the Desert.
If Melero gets too close, he might end up taking the paint off.
Braking alert. A great pass for Ryan Wilson, swapping places with Crow to move up the field. The action is non-stop as Ryan Wilson shadows Crow through every twist and turn, determined to claim first.
It's a battle for position as Wilson tries to make a move on Crow. This is what racing is all about.
Ada, how do racing drivers like yourself train to maintain concentration for long periods of time?
Mental training is a huge part of a driver's preparation. How? Techniques like meditation, visualization, and working with sports psychologists can help drivers build their focus and mental endurance for a race.
The leader has just finished the race. A fantastic result for Ryan Wilson.
You can see the sheer determination on Ryan's face as that becomes a win for the history books. That's the mark of a true champion, folks.
Crow takes second place with a fantastic race.
Brilliant. Crow showed great skill and determination to take second place.
What a race from David Zahn, showing his skill and determination for a great third-place finish.
Sketty, Simon of the Desert, Melero, and Stefano Amadei take 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. Assad Extreming in 9th is coming into the pits, which might be to serve a penalty.
Well, races can be won or lost in the pits, but in this case it's all bad news for Assad Extreming. It's going to be tough to come back from.